So I said to her, of course it's not stretching its neck over the fence. You've not taken its plats out.
Hi, this is Blyth Tait, and you're listening to Eventing Weekly with Mitch and Braden.
Mitch, Braden, and the one, the only, Blyth Tait. Blyth, g'day, mate.
G'day. Good to be here.
How did that sound, your intro coming through for your episode?
I hate the sound of my own voice, so it sounded a bit weird, to be honest.
Well, it was music to my ears, Mitch. How about you?
Yeah, music to my ears as well.
You two are easily pleased.
Well, who you been talking to? Hey, should we start with the cheers?
Cheers.
Because, shit, I am excited.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate. Excited for this one. Mitch, how long we had this one in the pipelines?
A couple of months, I think. How long have we been running this podcast?
A couple of months.
Yeah.
And here we are. Mitch, I wondered if you wanted to just set the scene, mate. Where are we right now?
In our truck.
Yes.
Burghley. Here we go.
Burghley.
Yeah.
What day?
Second dressage day. Round 2 of dressage Friday evening now. Kiwi in the lead.
Yeah.
How good is that?
It's pretty exciting. So when people listen to this, you know, this is going to come out on Tuesday morning. So right now, all we know is Tim Price just said, was it a world record 5-star score, or at least a Burghley record?
I'm not sure about world record. It could well
Definitely
be,
Burghley.
but it certainly was a Burghley record, apparently. So,
First sub 20, isn't
and
it?
I watched the test, and I thought it was almost harshly marked. I thought it was fantastic and could have actually scored better.
Could have been a sub 10.
Yeah, well, I don't
Forget
know.
about sub 20s.
I love that. I love that. So everything we talk about here, I mean, everyone else is going to be listening to in hindsight. So that being said, I think we should be comfortable to make bold predictions.
Absolutely.
And really push the boat out. Blyth, mate, before we get started in the 10 questions, I just wanted to firstly hear from you how long you've been back over in the Northern Hemisphere and what's brought you over this time.
Well, this podcast brought me over initially. Prepared to fly all the way from the other side of the world to chat to you two. Well, I haven't been here since pre-COVID, and just, Burghley was always a favourite of mine. So I came up, I've been here just over a week, and I'll watch the event at Burghley and fly back next week. So it was just a fleeting visit, catch up with everybody, tidy up a bit of loose ends from when I was here last, because I haven't been able to do that. Been locked out of my bank account and things like that. So got all that sorted, going to enjoy the weekend and then head back and hopefully come back up again later on next year for a bit longer.
Nice. Well, it's bloody good to have you here, mate. And what we're going to do is we're going to crack into the 10 questions. And as you know, the way we work here is, over the last couple of months, Mitch and I, we've had a shared note on our iPhone, and we've just been putting in questions. We've been spitballing, we've been going back and forth.
So you read Google then?
We've been leaning on Wikipedia pretty.
Google is involved slightly.
And what we've done is we've come up with 10 questions. So we're going to kick those off. And the first question's with me this afternoon. And the question is, were they flying horses when you moved over initially, or did they come by boat?
Okay, that's it. I'm not having this interview. You're going to be that rude. I know I'm old, but yes, they were definitely flying horses. And funnily enough, the first couple of horses I brought over here, I did fly. It was very expensive in those days, but Ready Teddy actually came over by boat.
He did?
Yeah, he did.
There you go.
I put him on the boat in Auckland Port, and he travelled up here. It took, I think, just over a month. The theory being that they acclimatised slowly on the way over.
Okay,
so when he arrived, he was ready to go.
Ready
I
to
mean,
go.
he was exercised on the boat every day.
Sorry?
How big is the boat?
Well, they had the horses in a bit of a well, so, and they had a sort of stables around the outside and then an area in the middle that was covered in sawdust. And so each horse came out and had several hours of exercise a day.
Holy.
When I say exercise, just free range or a bit of a lunge. But he was him and Aspiring, they're the only two that came on a boat. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were
The
you?
rest have all flown.
Did you go with?
No.
Okay. Was there a groom or who's
Yeah.
exercising?
Yeah, there was an experienced groom. I think there was maybe 10 horses in total with a couple of grooms that were, experienced grooms in travelling
Sure.
horses by boat, and it was a third of the cost at the time. I think now boats have gone more expensive and prices of planes have come down, so I wouldn't do it again. But at the time, it was a logical, economic decision.
Yeah, and for that boat trip, is that direct or is that docking at ports along
Don't
the way?
ask me.
You have no idea, do you? No.
All I know is that he went on the boat,
and he
inspiring,
got
and
off.
came off the other end.
Far out.
Yeah.
Mitch, obviously that's not the case now. Now they're flying. Do you want to just paint a picture for the fans of what it is for them to fly over nowadays?
I haven't actually seen it myself. I think you've been along to an airport, haven't you? Drop-off pickup?
I've done one. Have you done one, Blyth?
I've done one. I've done more than one.
Well,
but then I'm
maybe
a little bit older than you.
Go on.
Well, of course, it's 24, 48 hours. How long does it take? 36 hours by the time they stop and refuel and do whatever they do and let some off and put some on. And
Sure.
but the horses handle it really well. It's just like being in a truck, to be honest, or a lorry, as you guys call it. Except
Blasphemy.
that once they've done the initial takeoff and they fly flat, they don't actually move around. Like there's no corners, and stopping and starting. So it's actually probably
more
easier,
enjoyable.
apart from the
Easier.
takeoff and the landing. Yeah.
The way I often describe it is like that. It's like traveling in a lorry. They're in a box and the box is moving.
They don't know that they're thousands of feet up.
Yeah, that's it. People often ask, are they? What's the word when you put under? Anaesthetised?
Yeah, I mean, some, if they are a bit panicky or whatever, there is that option to do that. They don't,
but they
take
don't usually
that option
do
as the first
No.
option. But no, they handle it really well.
They do, don't
usually.
Yeah. We flew a couple over. Our route we did Auckland, Melbourne, Singapore, Dubai, Heathrow.
So
I think Ginny might
lots
have been the same.
Yeah?
Lots of landing and taking off then. Whereas I think when I've did it, a couple of times I've done it, we've only probably, I think we went to Singapore and then we went to Vancouver
Okay.
and then here. So it wasn't so
Sure.
up and down.
Yeah. The way I normally describe it is, I'm sure it's not it's not the most enjoyable process for them. It's sort of like us flying economy, like all of us do.
Yeah.
Well,
Do we?
Speak for yourself.
oh, there he is. Like I do.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable, but it's manageable. You know.
Yeah.
And
You
the-
just have to put up with it and then you're there.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing when we flew is we could go down and see the horses the whole time. You could give them water and feed them carrots, and you're with them the whole time. So that was pretty cool. But it was interesting to hear about
The old boat trip.
The old boat trip. Yeah. Mitch, question number 2.
Question number 2. You grew up, lived in Whangarei.
I sure did.
And I've heard before that you might have had a few other famous names growing up in your street.
I sure did.
Who
yeah.
were they, and what the hell did they put in that water up there?
I don't know what it was. I mean, I left the Fish Terrace, it was called, in Kama and Whangarei. I left there when I was 10 or 11. We moved to a little bit of acreage, and that's when I got a pony. I didn't have any connection with horses at that stage. But my next door neighbour was Ian Jones, who's an All Black, for those that don't know it. And I don't know, one of the most capped All Blacks, to be honest. He was a bit younger than me, so we used to knock him around when he was at that age. But of course, he's now 6'6" or whatever he is. On the other side, there was Angela Brackenridge, who became New Zealand's #1 table tennis player.
Table tennis.
There was Brian Young, a cricket player, top class. Was he opening bowler or batsman?
You tell me. He was your neighbour.
Well, he was a very good cricketer. And then there was Richard Ackes, who was a top class amateur golfer as well. And we were all in the same street. And the street literally only had, at that particular point in time, I don't know, a dozen houses, and we all went on to have international sporting careers. So we just don't know what it was. But I do know that our parents used to get together and have a few drinks.
Yeah,
so
they'd be on the wine, send the kids out, and you guys.
So it might have had something to do with it.
Yeah.
Was it the case of the, you hear the traditional Kiwi, or I suppose just modern, traditional upbringing of a child? You're out playing until dark, and then you come in for dinner. Was it that sort of environment?
100%. I think we were pretty free range. We all built tree huts and carried on together. So I guess, there was a sort of competitiveness amongst us, but we all supported each other, and yeah, I don't know what it was, but it was a proper Kiwi upbringing at
Amazing.
the time. Yeah.
And are you still in touch with any of those?
Ian
guys?
Jones, I am quite a bit.
Yeah.
I call his mother and father Auntie Betsy and Uncle Wat, which they're not. But, so I see a bit of him. Not so much the others. Angela, they've moved abroad.
Sure.
So yeah, it's just the way it is nowadays.
And sorry, one follow-up question on that.
Yeah.
Ian, now, am I right in thinking that he came over to Gloucester and played some rugby as well?
God, there's no secrets for you, is it? He did come over to Gloucester, and actually he lived in my house when I went back to New Zealand, him and Janina's wife. And they had a son at the stage.
Sure.
Flynn. Finn. And anyway, so yeah, they started out in my house while they got their bearings and then got their own place because my house was empty for 6 weeks. So
Sure.
Yeah. So actually, where you live.
Oh, this podcast is destined for great things.
Next door, actually. The house next door, the bigger house.
Yeah. Close enough, though.
Yeah.
Just for context, Mitch, so you and Ginny, when you arrived, obviously moved into Blyth's yard.
Blyth. Yeah. We did.
I wasn't warned, so I didn't have any understanding as to what they were like. So anyway, in they came, lock, stock and barrel.
Yeah.
And
you
never
did know we were coming.
And never left.
No. 5.5, nearly 6 years later.
That long.
Yeah.
God.
I know.
Yeah. How long did you last? 6 months, I think. And then
You were there.
Yeah, with
I
us.
think about a year.
Yeah. Okay.
Might I add, Blyth, when me and my wife arrived in the UK, you know, you were the mate that we hit up, and that's where we brought our horses as well. We were based on site there in North Leach for, what was it, 3 months while Sam prepared for Burghley.
I stagger myself with my generosity. I'm sure you're paying.
Yeah. Well, we weren't there for free, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. But we're repaying the favour today, aren't we?
Yeah, thanks.
Your generosity knows no bounds. Wicked. All right. Well, we'll move it along to question number 3, Blyth. And we want to delve into a bit of a venting chat. And our question for you is, if you could come out of retirement again and ride any horse right now, what would it be?
Oh, I like a very forward-going, very athletic type of horse, so it would have to be that type. Clearly, at the moment, Roz's horse is winning everything, so why not say that? But however, the horse that really appeals to me is Falco of Tim Price's because it's a nice, light horse. It's extravagant. It jumps incredibly well. So I'd like to have a bit of a hoon on that one, for sure.
How good.
I'm sure you might be able to convince Tim. You know.
I'm sure I wouldn't.
Oh, bloody
he
good.
did let me ride Wesco, actually.
Oh, really?
At a competition at the very beginning when Wesco was a novice and I had just come back over and Tim was away at some other competition, and so they asked me would I have a ride on Falco, and I think at that point he hadn't lost a competition. He'd only had two or three competitions. I only got third, so I let him down.
Failure.
But he was a lovely horse even right from the word go. So, yeah.
Oh, nice.
So that one blip on his
Radar.
record is...
Well, I think he probably lost a couple of other competitions, but I think I started the ball rolling.
Sure. Oh, nice.
Wow.
Wicked. All right, Mitch.
In fact, I think I would have even been second on that particular day, except I finished on the same score as someone else and I went too fast.
Oh, shit.
So I ended up third.
Bugger.
Savage.
Oh, bad problems to have, isn't it?
management.
How dare you? Yeah, should have been closer to that time. All right, what are we up to now? Question number 4. We've actually got a fan question lined up for you.
A fan of the podcast or a fan of mine?
Both, actually, both. Yeah, huge fan of the
hard
show.
to find.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. You know, we've been looking for months.
Yeah.
Preparing. We finally got one. We actually managed to get 2. Just
As a heads up.
Twisted their arms.
Yeah. All right, Braden.
Let's see what we've got here.
Hi Blyth, it's Andrew here. Just one question, is the rumours right? Now that I see you walking around Burghley here, you coming back to be the New Zealand high performance coach, is that right?
Listen, I couldn't organise myself without trying to organise this bunch. And they won't listen to me either. So, no, that rumour is definitely false.
Obviously, Andrew Nicholson there coming in, sliding into the DMs,
Into
wasn't
the
he?
DMs.
Yeah.
Good old
Coming
Andrew.
in hot too, isn't he?
He was bringing a little
No
bit of
beating
steam.
around the bush there.
How long you known Andrew?
Oh, well, actually, all of my career, Andrew and Mark came to the UK before me. And when I arrived, they couldn't have been, more helpful. And obviously, being on a team with Andrew for many, many years meant that I got to know him well. I think throughout our teamwork, we respected one another as our own individual riders, because we all rode a bit different, and we might have walked the course, and Andrew said, well, I'm going to go left here, and Mark might have said, I'm going to go right now. I said, I'm going to go straight down the middle. And we did, but we sort of worked with each other to come to the best result, and it was a team that really worked, and we were very fortunate with New Zealand doesn't have a huge population,
Sure.
but we always had another person that was very, very good in their own right, whether it be Vaughan Jeffers, who was world champion, or Vicky Ladder, or and so that gave the team real strength as well. So we had a really nice decade or so there.
Amazing.
Yep.
I think most of that decade you probably spent at number one as well, didn't you?
It was a bit different in those days, in that each year the world rankings went back to 0 at the start of each year. But yes, I think I had
9 out of 10? 8?
Oh, I don't know how many it was. I don't think it was that many. It was 6 or something like that.
6, 7, 8.
It was a different way of a different system, and so you actually weren't. Well, I don't think you're actually benefited now by having lots of horses anyway. But it was more of a more select performances rather than a lot of performances.
Yeah. Well, either way, it's still a lot of time to spend at world number one, whichever way you look at it.
Yeah.
Blyth, sorry to just jump in there because I can see you squirming talking about yourself at number one. I was just going to say, if you don't mind sharing a little more about that successful period and that team of riders we had, and just your thoughts on some of the characteristics. Obviously, you shared there. You had individuals who went about things in a different way. But yeah, just some of the features of that team environment that was so successful, that made you guys come together and
I'm
do so
not
well.
100% sure why we were successful, because I talked to Tim and Janelle about this, and they're obviously being very successful now as well. And there's got to be some kind of personal drive there.
Yeah.
You can be talented, and you've got to have the horsepower, but you've also got to have the will to win and all the rest of it. But I think we fed off each other, we supported each other, we were best mates, which is, I think, very important.
Sure.
And so therefore, if I needed to work through something, I would go to Mark and Andrew and I would get their honest opinion, not sugar-coated or anything like that. And so I think we just gelled, and I don't know what it was. It was certainly, it worked.
Yeah.
It was,
Amazing. There must have been a lot of trust in that relationship for you to be able to give that honest feedback to each other, because as you say, it wasn't sugar. You need to be direct, right, in these high-performance environments.
I mean, don't get me wrong, because there is a video running around of Andrew and I going around Burghley here, one after another, and it cuts from him to me, and we were lying first and second, and we finished the cross-country, and Andrew was in the lead, and I was just behind him, and I was very much willing him to knock a show jump down the next day. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
Which thankfully for my benefit he did. But but we had a healthy rivalry. We wanted to win, and but if we couldn't win, then we were very happy for each other to win, because we were Kiwis at heart, and we were fighting the same battle, to be honest. I mean, that I think is what is good about the sport, is that you are competing against each other, but you're competing with each other against the course and the elements and the difficulty of training a horse and the soundness issues and everything. Everyone can relate to what everyone else is going through. So when we go to the Olympics, for example, we actually have chat with the people from the other nations, and I don't think it happens in every sport.
Sure,
The swimmers stick to themselves and the athletes don't talk to them. Some of them do, I'm sure, but there is a real camaraderie within the sport because of the uniqueness of what we're trying to achieve.
Awesome, man. I could just sit and soak it
I'm
in all
talking
day.
too much, which
no,
is the
No,
one.
no. Keep on going.
No, but I
Keep
will.
going.
I will.
I'll give you one word answers from here on.
No, no, please don't. I will lead us on to question number 5, and it is some more Burghley chat. And my question is just simply, what does it take to win Burghley? You've done it
So
on...
simple.
Yeah.
So simple.
Yeah, you've done it on Ready Teddy, and my notes say, is it Chesterfield in
Yeah,
1998 as well?
I think it just takes what it takes to win any major competition. You've got to be well prepared on song on the weekend. You can't make any mistakes. No stone unturned. Those sort of things. I think Burghley is relatively unique in that the cross country really suits a galloping, bold horse. It's big, it's true, and so that type of horse exceeds or does well here, which in my heyday was the type of horse that I had at the time. Like Chesterfield was a full thoroughbred, so was Ready Teddy. The year that here I am talking too much, saying I'm not
No,
going to as
go
well, but
on.
the year I won
Go
with Chesterfield, it just rained and rained and rained, and I was actually first to go on him. And I remember I was pushing and shoving and doing my absolute best on the cross country, and I came home with 12 time faults or whatever, and I was gutted because I thought, oh God, everyone's going to go past me and whatever. And then so I went into the lead with him and stayed there, and my second horse, Aspiring, was right at the very end. I was very reluctant to start because I thought, well, if I fall off and get hurt, I won't be able to ride in the show jumping or whatever. But of course, my partner and my groom forced me to start, so away I went, and I finished with 20-something time faults and went into second.
Oh wow!
Because it was it was just a struggle round really, and the fences are big enough on top of the ground, so when you're hot deep in mud, it was survival of the fittest that year. Yeah,
Amazing.
so that may have played into my hand that it rained and I was on thoroughbreds.
Yeah. And with those Kiwi thoroughbreds that you
Yes,
brought
they
over,
were, yeah.
how much pride is there in that element of it?
A lot, yeah. Nice to do it on a Kiwi horse. The thoroughbred temperament definitely suited me. When I retired and then stupidly came back, I brought a Kiwi thoroughbred, but it just didn't work out. He had physical issues, so I ended up riding a couple of other horses that sort of found their way to me, and they weren't the same type of horse, but I still had fun. But I didn't have any ambition to sort of perhaps take the world by storm. So then I started to really appreciate what the other horses were like. How you do have to have an extra gear for five star, and a horse like Ready Teddy, I never had to push ever. It was just a matter of how much I let him run,
Really?
because he just had more gears than was necessary, which is very nice. But he was also very polite, so he wasn't hard to ride.
Well,
Anyway,
Sounds like a
talking too
dream
much
horse,
again.
doesn't
no,
it?
Blyth, please. We are. Let me tell
have
you,
a drink.
we are big fans of Ready Teddy here at Eventing Weekly.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's been an episode yet that we haven't brought up Ready Teddy.
I
Yeah,
do
he-
know that Taylor was going to ride him to stop the war in the Ukraine. I heard that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He-
Obviously hasn't done it yet.
No,
but,
'cause it's still
Come
going.
on, Ready
yeah,
Teddy.
she's still
Yeah.
trying to find him out there somewhere.
Unfortunately, Ready Teddy is laid to rest at my farm back home in New Zealand, so he won't be making a reappearance.
very. So he did end up back at the farm.
He
with you
did,
in
and
New
he had a
Zealand.
really nice, happy, healthy retirement for a long time, actually.
Amazing.
But then, unfortunately, one night he colicked badly, and
Okay.
we had to put him down. But he had a lovely, lovely retirement.
Deserved it, didn't he?
What a man.
All right, moving on. Next question. You mentioned that Burghley kind of has a bit of a special place in your heart, but you've been to World Games, Olympics, probably just about every other 5-star as well. We wanted to know what your favourite cross-country course that you've ridden on is.
I mean, there's lots of very nice events for very different reasons, but I think that the most spectacular cross-country I ever rode, and that really had an impact on me, was the Barcelona Olympics. The actual cross-country was on Seve Ballesteros' private golf course, and I don't know what they spent on it, but it was mind-blowing. Like one particular fence, I remember where you came up a rise and you jumped over a ditch type thing onto the roof of a house, and you went up and you slid down the other side or shuffled down the other side of the roof, and you jumped and bounced immediately over a ornate stone wall into a pond. And I mean, it just was. They were works of art.
Yeah.
I mean, I think after the Olympics, it converted back to being a golf
Back
course,
to
and
a
you
golf
know
course.
how they like
Oh,
to
that must
present
have
one
been
of those.
painful for
Sure.
the greenkeepers.
I know. I don't know
seeing
if it was
horses
open
galloping.
as a golf course at the time, but it is now. Al Montagna, it was called. And every fence was just so
Immaculate.
well presented. Yeah, and it was tough because it was, you know,
It was the Olympics.
it was a serious track.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
So
that's
that's
probably
the
my favourite.
Yeah.
And that flows
And-
on.
Oh, sorry, keep going.
No, you're okay. Have you got something
No, I was just
follow
going
up
to say,
there?
and it's in Spain, so you
Oh,
know,
good.
how
Is it?
wrong could you go?
Fan of Spain.
Big fan.
Huge fan.
How's your Spanish, Mitch?
No good.
No good?
No good.
Hola?
Hola.
¿Cómo estás?
Mitchell.
Yes. Sorry,
Yeah.
Blyth. We've got question 7 right here ready to go. And that is, what do you think was your biggest achievement in your eyes?
I mean, specifically a competition, probably the Olympics, because it's the pinnacle in most riders' sort of dreams and ambitions. They only happen once every 4 years. You don't get that many opportunities. But I think just having a nice long career, successful career on a number of different horses. I mean, we were trying to count it up the other day, but I think I rode something like 17 horses at 5-star level, which is, you know, rewarding because it's not just one horse that you've been successful on, but individually the Olympic gold medal would have to stand out. The 2 World Championships stand out as well, but the first one no one had even really heard of me. And so it was a surprise, and obviously it changed my career because I was able to remain in the UK and develop because of the success that I'd had there. But then 8 years later, having fallen off at the next World Championships, then 98, to win again as the favourite, or one of the favourites, was again a whole different sort of victory or win. So that I really am proud of as well, because, you know, I'm not going to say anyone can win one World Championships, but it's nice to win a second one.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's lots of. I'm very lucky to have had a lot of enjoyable moments.
Am I right in saying that you weren't actually on the team to start with?
Oh yes, that's
Before
in
going in,
Atlanta.
yeah.
That's true.
You were the first reserve?
Well, I was
Or
in the
however-
team on
Yeah.
Chesterfield.
Okay.
But Reddy Teddy was only 8 years old, and he had won Protoni 4-star long, but was very green. I also had a horse at the time called Aspiring, who had placed second here at Burghley, and he was also second behind Reddy Teddy at Protoni. So the selectors sort of said that I would have a little bit of a input into which one I took out as a reserve, and I figured that I'd take Reddy Teddy out because he wouldn't get to run, and so as a subsequence he could then just go aside and wait till he was a bit more mature, and I would bring Aspiring here to Burghley because it was the week before or the week after or whatever, so I couldn't do both. So I chose to take Reddy Teddy, and then unfortunately Mark's horse KM pulled a muscle in his shoulder on the gallop, and they said to me, "Well, you're in, Blyth." And I was like, "Oh, God, I don't know if I'm really up to it. I just said I was." But anyway, you don't let a chance go by.
No,
like
and you didn't.
Any Newcastle lad knows.
And you
good.
came out
Do
of
you
it.
know that song?
No.
Or no,
Don't know.
before you.
Flew straight over
you
my
wanna
head.
sing a few
Yours,
bars?
Brad?
No.
No.
All right, what are we up to, Braden?
I think we're at question number 8, Mitchell.
We are indeed. Just going back to Barcelona as well, you know, your favourite course out there.
Yep.
You won bronze.
Yep.
Do you remember where you were after the dressage?
as we cover our notes.
I'm going to say yes because it's my favourite number.
Oh, yes, Blyth.
How nice.
No, I think you might have to
Real
cut
nice.
that one out.
Yeah, maybe. Or we
I
could
won't
leave it in.
say it
Or
now.
we
I think
can
I was
leave it
about
in. Yeah.
69th or
Oh,
something
yeah,
like that.
really?
There he is.
Nice.
There's always a drama when I'm involved, but after the trot up, Messiah, you had to ride up to the training area and then back to the stables. And on the way back, he was jogging around and he stood on a very sharp stone and went a little bit off. And so I was concerned, so I got back and told the team vet and all the rest of it. But we tubbed his foot and everything seemed to be fine. And I think that I may have ridden him again the next morning, and he was fine. So then I went up to do my test, and by the stage the bruising was coming out, and he was lame.
He was not fine.
So it wasn't my best test. I'm quite famous for not doing great tests, but that was probably my worst. He was really... He
had a bruised foot. I mean,
he
what
hadn't
can you
been worked
expect?
and like he normally would be, and he was a very volatile horse, and he just thought it was an opportunity to act the fool. So I scored very badly, and funnily enough, by the time he came to start cross country, he was 100% sound, and after cross country, he was 100% sound. So
he's just putting
it
it on.
was just a moment that we took his shoe off and put pads on and did whatever we could do, and he came sound quickly, but so yeah, it was a bad test. But as I said, the course was very strong.
Yeah.
And he flew up to, I think, only about 9th.
Okay.
After cross country, but the show jumping was held at night time, and the jumps were all funny colour. They had photographs printed onto them, and they were all blue and grey, and a lot of
real
horses
spooky.
didn't jump very well, but he jumped clear. He was a good jumper, and I moved up to bronze. So
Perfect.
you never give up. You just keep
Never give
going.
up.
You never know what's going to
That's good,
happen.
69th to 3rd.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Hopefully we see some people fly up the leaderboard this week.
Don't forget, back in those dim, dark ages,
Yeah.
we used to have roads and tracks and steeplechase and all that as well. So there was the endurance factor, which also contributed to the overall score, whereas nowadays there isn't that
And
to impact the sport, the result quite so much.
And just if we've got a few modern day eventing fans listening, people that maybe didn't get into eventing until they married a horse girl and in sort of the mid 2010s. Can you just explain how it used to work with roads and tracks in the long format?
On cross country day, you used to start on phase A, which was what we call roads and tracks, which was you had to do 1 minute and 4 miles, so it was a brisk trot. And it was considered the warm-up phase for the steeplechase.
Okay.
And it was probably...
Sorry, is this after a dressage phase?
This is on cross-country day, yeah.
Okay,
the
so you
dressage
still
is
have...
taking
You've
place
got your
as
trot
normal.
up?
Yep, trot up, dressage as
Yes.
normal. Then endurance day, in long format, used to include this roads and tracks and steeplechase. So you'd ride for, I think, something up to about half an hour at the 5-star level.
Okay.
Then you'd do the steeplechase, which was 3 minutes at 690 meters per minute, so it was pretty fast.
Yeah.
And you scored time faults or penalties if you fell or whatever, because it's about the same pace that steeplechases go.
Yeah.
And then you'd come off that and go immediately into the second phase of roads and tracks, phase C, which was longer, so 40 minutes to an hour. And then you'd come into the 10-minute box, as it was called, and the vets would check that your horse was happy and sound and okay to go on. And so then you'd start out on the cross country, and we didn't have a warm-up fence, so the first fence was it. I mean, we'd already done a steeplechase, but
Sure.
and so it was a bit different in getting started. And I'm not sure, but I think that our phase D, which was the actual cross country phase, was longer as well. So it was a real endurance test.
Yeah. Wowee.
Which obviously would then have a bit more of an impact on the trot up on the last day and also the show jumping.
Yeah. So you can see how those thoroughbreds really came into their own.
But if you asked me, am I a fan of the modern sport as opposed to the old sport, I'd say yes, I probably am, because I think it's kinder on the horses for a start. I mean, we couldn't run our horses very regularly, and we had to give them a long downtime afterwards to recover. And I think that the spectators are really interested in what exists in the sport. No one watched the roads and tracks.
Okay.
So, it was, I think it's probably been a good thing.
Great.
Yep.
So better for the horses, better
Yeah.
for the spectators.
Easier to find the venues because you don't have to have the space for all
Sure,
those.
yeah,
Other, so
yeah.
it was a good decision. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, very good. Wicked. All right. We should fire on through. I think it's with me. We're already up
is.
to question number 9. It's flown by. We are 2 from home, and we have another fan question. So listen up carefully for this one as I press play here.
G'day, it's Toby Horse here. Big fan of the show, massive. I hear you might be interviewing Blyth Tait at Burghley today, and if you do, I've got a fan question for him. Now, I've never actually met Blyth, but we do share a hometown. In fact, one of my pony club instructors, as far as she tells it anyway, used to kick his ass all the time when they were growing up. But then, she decided to have babies, and he went on to get bloody famous. So there you go. But I hear from old mate Roger Winton that Blyth was pretty flash at gymnastics back in primary school. And given that early prowess, I'm just curious to know why he chose to pursue eventing instead. Cheers. G'day.
Oh, there we go.
G'day for good measure.
G'day.
Well, it was pretty obvious not to pursue the gymnastics career because that wasn't very good.
No.
I don't know how I fell into horses. I've got 2 sisters and we had a pony each, and they didn't carry on. So I think it was once I got to pony club and found the competitive side of riding. I quite liked that, winning a
gotcha.
ribbon.
Yeah.
And so I just enjoyed it. I mean, my father had race horses, and so there was always horses around once we moved from Fisher Terrace to a bit of acreage.
Mm-hmm.
And it was never a master plan. It just sort of evolved. And I think if you do any kind of sport and you are moderately successful, it drives you to, want to go further. In my complete naivety, I never really wanted to just be the best that was in New Zealand. I wanted to take on the world. So I guess I had an awful lot of self-belief, which I think riders need to have.
Sure.
I mean, there's a difference from cockiness, isn't there?
There
But,
is.
I mean, you can't be doubtful
Australian.
of yourself.
Sorry?
What? Sorry, I missed that.
Sorry to all the
I didn't
Australian
miss that.
fans.
I didn't miss that.
We love them.
Yeah, we do.
But, I don't know. It wasn't a master plan. It just happened.
Yeah, gotcha. Blythe, how old were you when you did up sticks and come over?
Well, quite late in life, to be honest. First of all, I came over here show jumping when I was 21 with just one horse, learnt and jumped him for a bit and then sold him and went back home again. And then when I started my own business at home, which was pre-training racehorses, I couldn't really travel the jumping circuit. So I had a jumper called Messiah who I switched to eventing. And he was the first horse I brought up here, and so I was 29 then.
Okay.
Yeah. But I came up the year before Stockholm, so I came up in 89 to be prepared for the World Championships in 90. Yeah.
There's hope for us yet.
Yeah.
You're only young.
Well, are you thinking about taking up riding?
Well, after hearing this story, you never know.
If I'm to point out the obvious difference between you and Blythe Tait.
Yes. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, one of you's pretty good on a horse.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
he doesn't know
What-
this
and what
yet.
does
He
Blythe
could
do?
be.
Oh, good.
So is that kind of how Reddy Teddy and Chesterfield fell into your hands? Training.
Again, how much
thoroughbreds
time
and-
have we
Oh,
got?
no, we've got all day.
Reddy Teddy was very different. Well, I was here based in the UK, and my father, who knows a bit about racehorses but doesn't know much about eventing, although he used to have an opinion, and every time I told him to shut up, he said, "You don't have to be an All Black to recognise a forward pass." So I had to listen to him. He spotted Reddy Teddy at a pony club one day event as a 6-year-old,
Okay.
and just approached the girl and said, "Would you like to sell him?" And she said she would, because she was travelling overseas and was trying to get some money together. So he was very cheap. I can't remember, I think $3,000, so 1,500 quid. So Dad rang me and said, shall I buy this little horse? And I said, well, how do I know, So Dad actually chose him,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he put him on the boat. That's when we
Yeah.
decided it was cheaper to go on a boat, so we put him on a boat. He was actually called Last Chance at the time.
Yeah.
I said to Dad, well, I can't ride a horse that's called Last Chance because everyone think I'm, at that desperate stage, which I was getting close to. So he said, well, his stable name's Teddy, so why don't we call him Ready Teddy? So when you get to the Olympics, they'll say, Ready Teddy, go. So that's how that came about.
Amazing.
And we never thought he would go to the Olympics. I actually, in fact, tried to sell him when he arrived because I thought he was just a nice small horse, but luckily a couple of people that tried him said no, so he stayed with me, and he just accelerated.
Just kept on going.
I also remember saying to Mark one day, we're at a little event, and I said, I think this is my next nice horse. You watch him jump, and I had a terrible round as well. So, he was green, he was inexperienced, but he came to it very quickly. He was a very precocious, very confident horse in his own skin. And the other horse, Chesterfield, was rather sad circumstances because I'd met Chesterfield a couple of times in training, his rider, Melissa Bradley, but she was unfortunately killed in a car accident.
Oh, shit.
And she had said to her parents that if, for any reason, she couldn't ride Chess, she'd like me to ride him. So when I was back in New Zealand, I went and tried him. And, Chess he probably wasn't the most conventional or the most talented, but he was a lovely horse, and he just tried his absolute heart out. So I agreed to ride him, and they stayed as his owners and travelled up to see him occasionally, and so I was very fortunate to receive him, really. Under very sad
went on to great
circumstances.
things.
Yeah.
Two pretty amazing stories there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fate.
So I'd like to say I went out and chose them, but of course I didn't. They found their way to me, and so did Delta, to be honest.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm happy to listen to one more.
Yeah.
Go on.
No.
Yeah,
What
go
about
on.
Messiah?
Messiah, I was already show jumping,
Oh,
and
yes.
Carol, who bred him, is very close family friend who I still see a lot and very close to. So that one was a little bit more conventional.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Not so unconventional.
Very good. And so you mentioned a little bit earlier that, you always had the desire to go out and be the world number one, the best in the world.
Should try to be.
And well, you did more than try, didn't you? I think, were you the first ever eventer to become simultaneous world and Olympic champion? Is that right?
You've looked at Wikipedia. You should
Yeah.
tell me. I think so, and I think Michael
Yeah.
Young has since.
Yes.
But yes.
But only two
yeah,
people to have ever done it,
Yeah.
I think.
So Ted won first the Olympic gold.
Mhm.
Because he was only young and hadn't had the mileage and experience after the Olympics, I dropped him back again down to 4-star level the next year, and then he was prepared to go to the World Games the following year, and so he won that as well. So he was a pretty nice horse. He won Burghley as well. He won Punchestown. He won a lot of
Everything.
what would be sort of like the ERMs with a sort of CIC 3 stars now. So yeah, he was
Cool horse.
Yep.
World and Olympic champion at the same time.
And it's been an absolute pleasure, Blyth, to sit down and go through those 10 questions with you. That was the end of our 10th question. So what we're going to do now is move into the final section of the show, and we thought we'd just fire through our predictions for the rest of the show.
Sure.
So we're as we mentioned at the top of the show, we're here at Burghley. It's dressage day 2, Friday afternoon, 20 to 6. And I've just pulled up the Eventing Weekly League on Eventing Manager. Do you know about Eventing Manager, Blyth?
Of course I do.
Yes, great. So we've got a bit of a league that we run. We've got, it looks like about 100 odd players. 102. So I will pull up a few of the top 10 and see what some of their teams are. But before I do that, I was just interested to hear your thoughts. Has there been any horses that have caught your eye that you think have a good shot of winning the thing this weekend?
There always is. I watched Tim's test and I thought it was absolutely beautiful. I thought it was stunning. I thought everything was correct about it, but it was also had a real spark and energy to it. So he's off to a great start, and I would hope and will expect. He was third here last year. That tomorrow will play to his strength as well. Roz is on a roll. Ollie's got 3 in the top, however many, so
Sure.
he's got a real chance there. Tom, of course, all the experience in the world with Toledo to Cursor, and he's got a nice young horse that's also in the hunt. So the door is open to others, but I would think that those experienced riders that have got off to a good start must be amongst the favourites.
In the box seat.
Yeah.
I think, Mitch, you've just been able to
Just-
load
I
up the top
yeah.
5. What do we got there?
Looking at the top 5, Tim Price, 18.7. Number 2 and 3 is Ollie on exactly the same score, 24.2.
Is that on Ballamore class?
Swallow Springs second, Ballamore class third.
Oh, yeah.
Tom McEwen in 4th, and Roz in 5th.
A lot of experience, a lot of good
Well,
horses
they're
there.
going to be very hard to get past.
Yeah.
Yeah. Couple of Americans in the rest of the top 10.
Okay.
So who knows what they're
Who
going to bring.
Well, if I steer our attention then over to the Eventing Manager League, it looks like coming in first at the top of the league, Caitlin Freeman.
Oh, get out of here.
Caitlin
Is
bloody
she?
Freeman, the Kiwi who's made her way over. Have you got to meet Caitlin?
Did she ride Zazu at Wellington on the week?
She did
Yeah,
ride
I saw her. She
Zazu at
rode very
Wellington.
nicely. Yeah, I'll go Caitlin.
Wicked, yeah. So she has put together a team, and listen to this. In her team, she's got Tim Price on Vitali, she's got Oliver Townend on Ballamore Class, and she's got Tom McEwen on TDK. So her score currently 68.5. Obviously, there's still a lot to do out there, but that's coming in at the top of our Eventing Weekly League, and I'll just see where that stacks up in the World League, and I think she's sitting 10th in the world right now out of 1,300. So good on you, Caitlin Freeman, one of our own.
Not bad.
One of our own. So we'll obviously watch that league as it goes along this weekend, and then we'll be interested to see who takes it out. Will Brendan Sterling make another big comp? Brendan Sterling won the league. It was actually Euros that he won at the Europeans last time. So watch this space, Mitchell.
No pressure on him.
I hope that Brendan notices that I'm wearing my
Sterling
logo.
collection, is it?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
Horse pilot.
is it called the Sterling Collection?
No, but they're responsible for me wearing this, so
Oh, okay. Are
Oh,
they?
there you
for
go.
you,
Yeah,
Brendan.
puff the chest out a bit. And that'll keep him
Oh,
happy.
good on you, mate. Good on you. Oh, very good, Mitch. Hey, it's that time of the show where I throw to you and check. How's that list of yours going, mate?
List is looking pretty well depleted now. Blyth, anything else you want to add?
no, I'm happy
You're
to
happy?
call it quits at that.
All right.
Well, if that's the case,
Sounds
I'm
good
going
to
to
me.
give Blyth Tait the final word. Sorry, Blyth Tait. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Hi, this is Blyth Tait, and you're listening to Eventing Weekly with Mitch and Braden.
Nice.
One
was
of our
crisp.
best.
Yeah.
One of our best timing.
Yeah. Good time to pull it out, too.